This is Phillips Camp Kindergarten. All right, so we found out on Friday we are learning about seahorses now. So we're going to start with a pictorial of a seahorse. So I'm going to draw it and I'm going to label some of the parts a seahorse has, okay? So up here I labeled my chart. It says seahorses. I gave my chart a name, okay? So I'm going to start at the top of a seahorse's head. And the reason a seahorse is called a seahorse is because of the shape of its head. Kind of has a pointier snout like an actual horse. So that's why it's called a seahorse. Okay. Come down here where its belly area is. I'm going to do it in one long curvy line down to the tail. And then I'm going to go down the back of my seahorse. Now remember, seahorses aren't perfectly smooth like I'm drawing them. They're kind of rigid, have lots of ridges and are a little bit spiky even on some parts because they're mostly made of bones. They don't have a lot of blubber or fat on them. They mostly have just bones, okay? So back up here to the head, this is called the snout, okay? The snout, it's basically where their nose is. And they also have an opening here, and that's where they suck in their food. So I'm gonna label this snout. Okay, so this is the snout. And it's not used for sniffing, really. It's used for sucking in food. Tiny, tiny plankton or tiny crabs or crustaceans is what they like to eat, something small. They also have eyes on each side of their head. So I'm going to write eyes because they have two eyes. Okay, and they are considered a fish. Even though they don't look like other fish that you might see, they are in the fish family. So that means they have gills to breathe. And their gills are on the side of their head here. Okay, now remember the gills take water in and filter the oxygen into their body, which means they only take in the oxygen or the air, and that's what lets them breathe underwater. Also on their head, they have something called pectoral fins. Pectoral fins. So I'm going to label that pectoral fins. And these fins are on each side of their head and they help them steer. So it helps them to move in the direction they want to move in. And they just kind of come out and they wiggle like this, push the water out of the way. So the pectoral fins help them steer in the direction they want to go. Okay? So now here, this big rounded belly, if this was a male seahorse, we would call this part the brood pouch. Now remember, the brood pouch is where the babies stay. So remember, they're viviparous animals, which means that they have their babies start out as eggs, and then they turn into baby seahorses, and then they come out of the brood pouch. So if this is a male or a boy, it's going to have a brood pouch. I'm even going to put if it's a male. So if it's a boy seahorse, it's going to have a brood pouch. Okay? And on the front here, there's also a little very small fin called the anal fin on top of the brood pouch, or a little bit above the brood pouch, okay? Now this fin here is called a dorsal fin. And the dorsal fin helps the seahorse swim upright. So like we're standing upright, it helps the seahorse stay upright so it doesn't just tip forward. So as the fin wiggles back and forth like this, it moves very quickly. It helps it move through the water or propel through the water, and it helps it stay upright. So the dorsal fin is very important to the seahorse. Now a seahorse is mostly made up of bones, and it has a bony plate So it's not really an animal that a lot of predators like to hunt and eat because there's no fat on it. There's nothing, no meat, nothing that an animal really wants to eat. The only predator for a seahorse is a crab. So that's the only creature in the ocean that they have to look out for. They have to watch out for crabs. Okay, as we get down here to this very nice curvy tail, I'm gonna draw some lines because they also have little plates on their tail. Their tail is also very bony and firm, and they use their tail to latch onto seagrasses or coral when they want to stay in place. And they also hook up and sync together or link together with other seahorses. They actually like to swim in pairs with a friend. So they'll join tails, they'll hook on, and they'll swim together. So their tail is also very important to their survival. Okay, so let's just review what we wrote. Snout, eyes, gills, pectoral fins, dorsal fin. They just have one on the back, the dorsal fin. The anal fin is here on the front. A brood pouch only if it's a male, okay, if it's a boy. And then the tail, okay? So now that we labeled parts of our seahorse, I'm gonna show you where in the world seahorses can live. All right, so now we're gonna look at where seahorses live. Now this is the map of the world that I made for the great white shark. So I'm gonna reuse this map and I'm gonna add to it more information. So we can see in the orange is where great white sharks live in our oceans. But now I'm gonna add where seahorses live in our oceans. And since I'm gonna add more than one animal to our map, I'm gonna make a key at the top. And the key is gonna tell us which color represents each animal. So the orange, anywhere in orange is where great white sharks live. So I'm just gonna color a little orange square, and then I'm gonna write great white sharks. So that way we remember when we look at this chart, this color is for great white sharks. And for seahorses, they're gonna be in blue. So I'm gonna draw a little blue square and just shade that in real quick. And if you have your map still from the great white shark, you could do the same thing, or you can create a new one. And I'm gonna write seahorses. Oh, let me use black for this. It's a little easier to see. Seahorses. Okay, that way we don't get confused when we're looking at our map. Okay, so we know that seahorses like to live in warm waters, and they like to live in shallow water, which means closer to the top of the surface. And they also like to live on the coast, which means they're gonna live near land. Obviously not on land, but they're gonna live close to the land. So I'm gonna color some blue where seahorses live. So let's review our continents actually. This is North America. That's where we live. Remember, here's Fremont. We live on the continent of North America. Down here is South America. So North America, South America. Over here we have Africa. Africa. And then this continent's kind of silly because it looks like one giant landmass, but there's two continents on it. There's Europe and there's Asia. Down here is Australia. Australia. And down here at the very bottom is Antarctica, where it's really cold, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different continents that make up the land masses on our planet. Now, there's also some islands over here we'll talk about in a minute. But let's get back to the seahorses. So seahorses live in warm water. So they're gonna live in the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Indian Ocean, not the Arctic Oceans. It's too cold for them. So they're not down here. They're not up here where it's really cold, okay? So over here, off the coast of California, more in Southern California, there are seahorses. And even down here, definitely in South America, go down around South America, because there's lots of warm waters down here. Okay, and on this side of South America as well. And on the top, the ocean up here along the coast. Now notice I'm not coloring a lot of blue over here. They don't swim like the great white sharks. They don't travel all over the place like the great white sharks into the big, vast ocean. They're gonna stay along the coastlines, okay? Doesn't mean they don't travel a little, it just means they don't go as far as a great white shark. Okay, so now we're back up to North America. This is the Florida area. Okay, and on the East Coast, in the warmer waters. Okay, now we're gonna take a plane or a boat across the Arctic Ocean to Africa. Now, seahorses can be found in Africa around the entire continent. Okay, so whether you're in Northern Africa or Southern Africa or East or West, you can find seahorses along the coast. So I'm going all the way around in blue to show you where the seahorses live. Now, if we were to travel up towards Europe here, up on our map, in this whole area, you can find different seahorses. Okay, now there's at least 30 seahorse species. That means 30 different kinds of seahorses. And there are even more. I think it's up to 45, but there's definitely 30 different kinds of seahorses. So here we go, and around Europe. Okay, and then we're gonna travel over here towards, this is Italy, towards Asia, where China is and India. So down here along the coast in the warm waters, where we're gonna find seahorses. Now you're doing a good job. Stay with me, I'm almost done. Okay, and remember, this is the Pacific Ocean over here. So the Pacific Ocean is a warmer ocean. And down here, I didn't draw all these different Pacific islands that we also have. So we have small land masses here. Maybe I'll go back in and add them later. Okay, like Thailand and the Philippines, Indonesia. And in this area, it's all very warm. Okay, and it's all the way down to Australia, where we find the kangaroos and the koala bears on land, but so much ocean life in the water. The Great Barrier Reef is there. So all around Australia, all over in these waters, around the entire continent, are seahorses, okay? And now remember, I hand drew this map. It's not perfect. Australia doesn't come close to the Arctic Ocean like this or near Antarctica. It's actually further up, but I tried my best. Okay, so now we're done adding to our map. Take a little look. And if you have your map at home, you can add to it as well, or maybe draw a new one. And I have one more thing to show you. It's a fun game. Okay, so we're at the end of our video, but I wanted to show you a fun game that you can find on the Google Drive. It's under week 8 with the ocean animals, okay? So this is a sort of matching game that you get to play, and you can print out these cards. I cut some of these for the game, but they have different ocean animals on them, like sharks and manatees and dolphins and crabs and the octopus. So when you print these, you have to print 2 sets to play this game. And if you can't print these, you can make it at home. Just draw your own pictures and write your own words, okay? You can make it on your own. But if you can print these at home and cut them all out, and you need 2 sets, don't forget. Once you cut them all out, you take them and you put them all face down on the floor or on the carpet, wherever you're gonna play, and you need a partner to play this game. So make sure you play with your brother or sister, mom or dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever you're with, okay? And what happens is I take a turn and then my partner takes a turn, unless I make a match. So I'm gonna pick a card and I'm gonna look at the picture and say the word, seahorse. Then I'm gonna flip another card over. Oops, I flipped the octopus. Are these 2 cards the same or are they different? They're different. They're not the same animal. So I flip them back over and then my partner gets to go. So if I was playing with Mr. Phillips and it was his turn.
Okay, it's my turn. I'm Mr. Phillips.
He's gonna flip one card over and then flip another card. Did he make a match? Are they the same animal? Yes. So he's gonna take both those cards and he's gonna keep them in a pile next to him. And then he gets to go again to try to make another match. But if he doesn't make a match, he has to put both back and then it's the other person's turn. Okay? So have fun playing this matching game with the ocean animals today and try to start your pictorial or your map. Have fun.